Coming up this weekend, an absolute banger for the lightweight title with the former interim champ, Justin Mr. Highlight. He is the highlight. He is Justin Gaethje taking on Charles do Bronx Oliveira. And if you look at it for Charles Oliveira, the recent run is absolutely amazing. It's legendary. He is in 6 all-time UFC categories in terms of, total fights, wins, finishes, submission wins. He's in the top 10 of those categories. It's crazy to see. And for submissions, number 1 with 15. What about bonuses? Tied for number 1 with Cowboy Cerrone, 18 in the UFC. It's absolutely wild. You look at it, takes on Michael Chandler, wins that belt, able to get it done. Takes on Dustin Poirier, finishes him with a crazy transition to get the submission. Charles Oliveira, he's like Hansel. He's so hot right now, and he's taking on Justin Gaethje. The commenters in our YouTube community tab, they don't have nice things to say about him. But to you YouTube community tab commenters out there, former World Series of Fighting champ. When he started his career off, he was a wrestler that would slam guys and knock them out.
Ask Kevin Kroom how it went.
Poor Kevin Kroom. But if you look at it for Justin Gaethje in the UFC, 6-3, he's won a bonus in every fight but one, where he got bonused when he took on Khabib. Khabib got a performance bonus. Gaethje has 10 in the other 8 fights. Performance and fight of the night against Michael Johnson. He's got a performance and a fight of the night against Tony Ferguson. And if you look at it for Justin Gaethje, loses to Khabib, beats Michael Chandler in a fight of the year. Oh, but how many fight of the years has Justin Gaethje had since he came into the UFC in 2017, Craig? He's had 3. Michael Johnson, Dustin Poirier, and Michael Chandler. So it's been an amazing run for Justin Gaethje, and I think this is an amazing fight coming up this week.
I was just going to say, he's got a pretty good chance to make it 4 for 4 this weekend, because this matchup against Charles Oliveira is everything MMA fans like. And I go a few different directions with this, but this is what I'm going to start off with. Fighting Charles Oliveira is like holding the water back from a dam. You have to be very structurally sound and follow a really smart game plan to be able to beat him. Because if you're fighting someone like Oliveira, the second any water gets through that dam, you know there's a big wall of it coming from behind. And Gaethje, with his grappling, he's weird. And when you break down grappling, you have to break it down into 2 parts. You have wrestling and you have jiu-jitsu. Both are considered grappling, but they are both very different. Justin Gaethje is a pretty good defensive wrestler. I know they talked about it a lot in the lead up to the Khabib fight, and we didn't really see it in that matchup. But again, Gaethje does have a very high level of wrestling in his back pocket that you can always go to. And this fight, I think, is very similar to the Dustin Poirier fight, because on the feet, Poirier and Gaethje, they're pretty similar. I would say Gaethje might hit a little bit harder, but Poirier is probably a little bit more technical with his boxing. The difference is, I think Poirier is a far better jiu-jitsu player than Justin Gaethje is. I know he got submitted by Charles Oliveira, but Dustin Poirier himself is a very high-level grappler, whereas the second we saw Justin Gaethje on the mat with Khabib, and I know, we're comparing him against one of the greatest grapplers we've ever seen, but Poirier was able to at least maintain some positions, have a little bit of success with Khabib, and again, not a whole lot, but he had him in a guillotine, he was able to get back his guard a couple times. The second Gaethje was on his back, he kind of looked like a fish out of water against Khabib, and I'm pretty sure Charles Oliveira, if he's watching that fight at home, he's thinking, okay, well, I might not be the same wrestler as Khabib Nurmagomedov, but the second the fight hits the ground, Oliveira might be one of the few fighters who could maybe challenge Khabib in the grappling. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but Charles Oliveira is at that level of grappling in the UFC. He's been able to demonstrate it time and time again. And the really nice thing about Oliveira too, he's someone who people used to question, oh, does he have heart? Is he someone who could quit? He did kind of quit against Paul Felder. Let's be 100% honest, he did. But my favorite boxer of all time is Roberto Duran. He quit in a fight too, but you know what he did after that? Went on to win a world championship again. He had some really strong moments later on in his life, even though he had a weak moment at one point. Charles Oliveira is in the exact same category. Did he have a weak moment in the cage? Maybe. You know what he's done ever since? Eaten massive shots, faced a lot of adversity, and come out the other end looking better. And I think that's probably the biggest evolution Charles Oliveira has made throughout his career. Yes, he's been able to match the striking with his grappling, but just his overall level of maturity now. You hear about him talk, it's not about me, it's about us as a gym. It's about how can I not only make me better, but everybody else who I'm with. And I just feel like we're seeing a level of maturity out of Charles Oliveira. It's just like that championship confidence. It's something you hear about a lot. Well, Charles Oliveira definitely has it ever since he's been able to get that UFC belt.
It'll be interesting to see if he falls again, where that goes, because we've seen some fighters where they keep the team around. We've seen some fighters where they go, okay, remember that game plan, like Davison Figueiredo? I'm going to Fight Ready MMA. Forget about everything that I was doing in Brazil. So for Charles Oliveira, really, really repping that gym strong. Diego Lima, the old shoot the box. And you look at it over in our YouTube community section, Matt. So we threw out the poll earlier on today. 792 total votes, 68% going with Charles Oliveira. Your comments are appreciated. Bob said I got Charles winning because of how non-existent Justin's BJJ is. Hopefully I will say I am worried at how Charles handles the low kicks. In all reality, this fight is dictated by who pressures the other to the cage. Both guys get hurt when their backs are to the cage. We've also got Slim saying I think Gaethje knocks him out. We've got Scott saying Gaethje will easily beat him in the first round. Only casual fanboy would say different. Matt, I don't know about that, but realistically, you look at this fight, and for Justin Gaethje, he has a fight of the night against Edson Barboza that was over at the 2.5 minute mark of round number 1.
It was a wild 2.5 minutes, though.
That's absolutely wild. For Gaethje, though, the thing that I love about him is you can have a 2.5 minute fight of the night against Edson Barboza, or you can have a fight that goes long where you finish Tony Ferguson, where he was still on his crazy win streak. He's still technically unbeatable at that point. Where Gaethje picked away at him, and between rounds 2 and 3 and 4, Trevor Whitman's going, okay, you got to start to implement the left hook into this one. You got to start working the leg kick. And you see Justin Gaethje following that game plan to a T, making those adjustments and showing people at home that he's not just a brawler, but people don't believe that even in 2022. So yes, there are some aspects of his game where he looks like Homer Simpson with a crayon in his brain. But there's other aspects where you sit back, you watch the fight, you analyze it, and you realize this guy can make technical mid-fight adjustments to where he wins.
He still gets cracked like it's going out of style, though.
Oh, yeah. But again, offensively, we can see him make some of these adjustments. And again, we've seen these losses in the UFC because he was undefeated coming in. He has the Ultimate Fighter, the Michael Johnson. He loses to Eddie Alvarez, loses to Poirier, loses to Khabib Nurmagomedov. I know Eddie Alvarez is on a rough run right now.
Three of the greatest lightweights of all time, though.
I know Eddie Alvarez is on a rough run right now, but trust me, he is a great. Dustin Poirier is a great. Khabib is the great. BJ Penn is also a great, but you might not like me saying that.
And Charles Oliveira is well on his way to becoming one of those greats, and I feel like people need to start realizing that. Like, right now, I feel like everybody kind of widely agrees that Kamaru Usman's the closest out of any current champion to potentially getting the GOAT category in his division. And trust me, we love GSP. We're Canadians. But even we have to come to that realization eventually where it's like, okay, Usman's beaten everybody in the top 5. He looks incredibly dominant while he's doing it. Like, you're getting towards that GOAT conversation. Charles Oliveira faces adversity in his fights, but also finishes all of them. And that's the really incredible thing about Charles Oliveira. He can knock you out, he can submit you, he can win by decision. Whatever you need, Charles Oliveira's got it. And the thing about this fight is, I think the ranges are going to be really weird because in your mind you probably think, okay, at long distance, Oliveira's going to have success. He likes that straight right. He works behind the jab. A little bit more kick heavy than Justin Gaethje. But I think the leg kicks of Gaethje are enough of an X factor to where Oliveira's going to have a hard time at kickboxing range. The flip side is, if you watch the Oliveira versus Poirier fight, he struggles at boxing range with Poirier. But when he decides to smother the boxing range and make it kind of dirty boxing, more clinch work, Oliveira lights him on fire. He's throwing elbows in tight, knees to the body, uppercuts up the middle too, and these are techniques that have a lot of power behind them because Oliveira's in that category of you look at him and you think, wow, he probably doesn't hit very hard. You couldn't be more wrong. He has a really nice pop on the end of his shots. And that's why I do like Oliveira in this fight. I think there's a world out there where Oliveira TKOs Justin Gaethje. There's a world out there where he submits Gaethje. And there's a world out there where he beats him by decision too. I could see Gaethje winning by knockout, but I think he's going to have a really hard time putting 25 minutes of success together because Oliveira is so multifaceted. Against Tony Ferguson, you can go out there and just strike with him. But Oliveira proved he's a way better wrestler than Tony Ferguson is. He has those really nice body-to-body takedowns too, and that's the last X factor I'll bring up. Oliveira's a good wrestler, and he doesn't do it in a traditional sense. He likes clinch takedowns and body-to-body takedowns. Those are takedowns that I do think Gaethje could struggle with because they aren't as traditional as what he's used to. And again, that's why I like Oliveira in this fight, but this is an awesome one.
Charles Oliveira could win a fight in any which way. Justin Gaethje, though, to give you the flip side and the argument there too, I would be damn surprised if Justin Gaethje goes out there and Anthony Hernandez is Rodolfo Vieira and submits Charles Oliveira.
Well, of course he's not going to submit.
That would be absolutely insane. But for Gaethje, craziest part about it is, you know, you look at just numbers on a page, he is at a reach disadvantage when it comes to the striking. You would mention it, the right hand of Charles Oliveira. But Justin Gaethje has some of the best leg kicks in MMA, so that really cuts things down. That opens up a window to his boxing. We know how good Justin Gaethje's boxing is. And then in comes those mid-fight adjustments, the adjustments to, okay, I'm going to start throwing that left hook. I'm going to start countering a little bit less, being a little bit more offensive with some of my movements, can definitely cause Charles Oliveira some issues. Now, we look at this fight in terms of the odds. You look at it for Oliveira, open to -205 favorite, -170 right now. Justin Gaethje, open to +175, +140. Again, we already talked about the votes in that YouTube community tab. I'm going to update them right now so we can get a little bit more of a live look at them. 803 total votes, still at 68% Oliveira. The fans are going with Oliveira. The price is dropping on Oliveira. I mean, I like that.
Oliveira reminds me of Fernando Tatis Jr. Hear me out. Baseball is a sport that's dominated by skills, not athleticism. If you're very skilled, you'll make it very, very far. But if you have both, and you can put both together, you can be something really special. To me, if Charles Oliveira wasn't a really good athlete, still, everything he does technically is extremely high level. Then you give him his level of athleticism, the speed, the power that he has. It just puts him over the edge, and that's why I like Oliveira in this fight.
Yeah, it really is a tricky fight when you're trying to break it down. I know, again, if we're not picking Justin Gaethje...
Couple of casuals,
and I guess that might be what we are. But, Matt, I do have Charles Oliveira in this matchup. I want to hear from you down below in the comment section. I want to hear from you on Apple Podcasts. I want to hear from you on Spotify, even though they don't really have a comment section there. They should. Google Podcasts, wherever you get the podcast, there's a version of this in the audio form. And if you can't find it there, go to FightNightPicks.com, the website. Joshua Hart doing the damn thing over there. But all of the podcasts, the full card betting guides that he puts together, they are available on the website. You can hang out with us 2 hours before the prelims for Fight Night Picks, kicks. And then we also have the sidekick, Matt. What is the sidekick?
The sidekick! You've probably heard of these fight companions before. They're fun and all that. They're not the Fight Night Picks sidekick, though. It's just our chance to go over. We do our own commentary. Have a lot of fun with you guys watching the fights. That's really what it's all about at the end of the day. Just watching MMA with more people who love the same sport we do. So hopefully you check it out. Because here's the thing. We have some pay-per-views where, listen, there might be one fight on the main card where you have to get some maybe fake enthusiasm about. This couldn't be further from the truth. I am as excited for Cowboy Cerrone versus Joe Lozon as I am for Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira. But I still think this whole main card is going to be incredible.
I can't wait for Shogun Rua to walk out to the naked and the famous.
And he just starts crying.
Oh, it's going to be something. Make sure you tune in for all of that great stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.